Kenneth. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hey,
And today is a workshop that we presenting for a reason. We're doing this because, anybody got a flyer for this workshop? I have one. The topic is, number one, the 12-step time factor. 2, in taking the steps, exactly how and precisely when. 3 is producing sponsors and not sponsees. Over a period of time in the program, different people have experienced taking somebody through the steps. And then when it comes time for that person to take somebody through the steps, they start saying, well, I can't do that. Any of y'all ever experienced that?
All the time.
Yeah, well, I'll get someone through, and then they'll not get somebody through. They may stay sober, they may not. But, the chain stops with them. And what we're doing, the purpose of the workshop is to get a better insight and understanding as to what the textbook tells us is the process of taking a person through the steps. Our purpose is not to condemn or criticize people who take people through the steps differently. Those people are doing the best that they can do with what they have. It's not our purpose to condemn them or criticize them. Our purpose is simply to state what the textbook, the first 100, stated that we are to do in taking someone through the steps. How they did it. That's our purpose. So to address the 12-step time factor, most people think that the big book does not mention time in taking a person through the steps. There is no set time that the big book talks about in taking a person through the steps. That conception is one of the biggest misconceptions in the Alcoholics Anonymous world. I'm going to repeat that. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in the Alcoholics Anonymous world. The 12 steps, in fact, does have a time factor. In the 12 and 12, they tell us that step 1 and 2 did not call for any action. They merely call for reflection. In taking step 1 and 2, there's no need for any writing or any of that. It just called for reflection. And it says, like all the remaining steps, step 3 calls for affirmative action. In other words, step 3 is an action step. Even though they say, I'm making a decision, they clarify it by telling us that it actually is an action step. Because this particular action, this act, is an act of the individual's own will that nobody else can do. So it calls for affirmative action. The action is in the turn. See, in step 2, right somewhere in the big book, they tell us that when the word God was mentioned, that our perverse streak came to the surface, and we tried to indulge in windy arguments and, philosophical arguments trying to say that it isn't so. The word perverse, when they say our perverse streak came out, that word perverse has nothing to do with perverts. Y'all ever heard, how most people would equate the word perverse with something perverted? It has nothing to do with that. The word perverse means, got to remember this is in We Agnostic, the word perverse means to be turned away from all that's good, moral, and right. That's what the word perverse means. To be turned away from all that's good, moral, and right. So before step 2, I'm turned away. This is why the decision in step 3, I make the decision to turn. Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in step 2, I'm turned away. I'm turned away from all that's good, moral, and right. And in step 1 is a lot of reflection going on. We learn. They tell us that we had to concede. This is on page 30. Do y'all have big books? Everybody got a book in the 12 and 12? Let me get the big books. Somebody reach the books for them, please. The big books in the 12 and 12. Because you're going to need that.
What page, sir?
This is what they tell us. We're not going to go there right now, but that's what they told us. That we, when in step 3, that, step 1, that we learned something. This is what they said. But in addressing the 12-step time factor, before we get to that, we want to make and show what the textbook says on, I think it's page 13 in Roman numerals, in the forward to the first edition. And why they use this kind of language. Somebody got the forward to the first edition?
Yes.
They said we, y'all see that?
X-I-I-I.
X-I-I-I. The forward to the first edition. First. Yeah. Y'all got it? They said we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to show other alcoholics precisely, and they got this precisely in squiggly right. What y'all call squiggly right? It's italics.
Yes.
Precisely how we have recovered. Those words, precisely how we have recovered. That word, precisely, they use that word. And that word means concise or sharply defined. I think I have another definition of that word, because it's very important that we see exactly what they're talking about. One meaning of it is, in exact terms, without vagueness, definitely, strictly stated, sharply defined. That's what they told us. And on page 20, I think it is, we have to move to page 20. I think it's on page 20. Y'all see that where he said precisely, right? That word? Y'all saw it?
Yeah.
Now we turn to page 20. They said, you may have already asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? And they say it is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically, not vaguely, specifically, straight to the point. And notice they're not saying what you have to do. We shall tell you what we have done. Y'all heard that? They never told that person what to do. They said, we're going to tell you the whole purpose of this book is to answer such questions specifically. You see a connection between the word specifically and precisely? Do y'all see that? Then they tell us on page later, I don't know what page this is on, but this is what they tell us. Most of you all are familiar with this. They said later on, clear-cut directions are given, right?
Yeah.
Showing how we recover, right? Clear-cut means just that.
Page 21.
That's without ambiguity, straight to the point, you know, no doubt about it. Clear-cut. Y'all see the connection in clear-cut specifically and precisely.
Yes.
All right. Then they go on to tell us, well, right here, this is what they got. This is what they state. Clear-cut directions. We shall tell you specifically, precisely how we have recovered. Now, I'm saying that so we can eliminate any doubt as to them not knowing what they were talking about. You know, they're gonna lay it out crystal clear, especially in that time factor. If you all go to page 30 in the big book, this is what they're gonna say. Y'all see where we learn? We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. Now most people, like I'm saying, most people in the Alcoholics Anonymous world will tell you there's no time factor in the steps. But they just told you this is the first step in recovery. The word is means the present tense of be. The present, not past tense or future tense. The present tense of be. This is the first step in recovery. The word first means first in rank, order, or time, or importance, right? So, is that a time word they used? Answer me.
Yes.
This is the first, right after this reflection, I'm admitting that I'm powerless. They're going to tell me that once I admit I'm powerless, automatically I'm going to need some power. I'm going to have to get some power from somewhere. So they're going to ask me, you know, if I do have a power, where and how am I to find it? They're going to go to page 45 with that. They're going to say, we had, say, lack of power was our dilemma. We had to find a power, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But how and where were we to find this power? A two-part question. They're going to ask us. So when I'm working with the person, I ask them that. How? If they say, where? If you got a God or a higher power, if you do, where is he? And they say, he's up there. He's all, ain't y'all got the man? He's all around. Well, he's everywhere. Well, that's probably why you can't access him, because you can't specifically, definitely, precisely tell me where he's at. Right? So we go to page 55 and locate where the power is. For the newcomer. On page 55, it's going to say, actually, we were fooling ourselves. For deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. And then when they finish that, they're going to say, in the last analysis, or the final analysis, something like that, it is only there that he may be found. They never say that's the only place where he is. They say that's the only place he may be found. Right? Why? Because the only thing that's going to be looking for God is a human mind. And the only place it can realize God is within itself. They say sometimes we have to search fearlessly, right? Alright, so step 2 is the only step that does not mention itself by name. Step 2 makes no direct announcement saying, this is step 2. And it's a reason for that. Because in working with the person that I'm working with, only the person themselves can define when they come to believe. Y'all understand?
Yeah.
But after the person has come to believe, that ball starts rolling. Then that ball starts rolling. So we go back, now that we've located where the power is, we go back to page 47. Y'all got that?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And what does step 2 say on the board? Came to believe, right? They say on page 47, as soon as a man can say he believes or is willing to believe. Not as soon as he can write. As soon as he can say he believes or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him he's on his way. The word soon, because this is the closest we're going to get to step 2. The word soon means at once, immediately, before the usual time. So we done got 2 time words in the step, right? So as soon as this person can say that, we emphatically assure him he's on his way. On his way where? To step 3, right?
Right.
Yeah, because he said it has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. So in step 3, I'm going to ask God to do with me and build with me as he would, right? So I'm going to go to step 3, and they're going to introduce step 3 on page 60. Step 3 is the only step that mentions itself twice. Step 2 doesn't mention itself at all. But step 3 starts on page 60 and it says, how did you read that? It said, we made a decision? No, being convinced.
Being convinced.
Yeah, we were at step 3. Now, we were at step 3 is in, again, squiggly letters, right?
Yeah.
Italicized letters.
Yeah.
And, let me see. We made a decision to turn our willing lives over to the care of God as we understood him, right?
Right.
Just what do we mean by that? This is the just what. Y'all see this? All of this is going to equal the just what. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They said,
Hold on.
hold it,
Okay.
hold it. You got a question?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you that you refrain your question until it's over. Unless it's a crucial, important question, I want to keep rolling with this.
Okay.
All right, it can wait?
I
Okay.
guess so.
After we make this presentation, then y'all ask me questions, all right?
Okay.
So in step, the introduction is step 3. They got this italicized letters. We were at step 3. But when they said that, they asked us this just what question. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? The just what. They put it in italicized letters like that to show us this word at. A-T. It means in the vicinity of or at the location of, but not necessarily there. So what we're going to have to do is explain to you a few things about what this means, not what you think it means, but what we mean by that. Remember they told us about this insanity word? They said whatever the precise definition, we call this plain, you can call it what you want, but we call this plain insanity, right? So not what you think it means, just what do we mean by that? That's the just what is another word for specifically, precisely, clear cut, exactly. Just what do we mean? Just what? Y'all got that?
Yeah.
And after they go through all of these explanations from page 60 to 63, when you get to 63, they're going to say, we were now at step 3, right? And that word now means at the immediate present time. Am I right or wrong? Right. So once I make this decision, this crucial decision, step 3 is so powerful that we're going to have to go a little further into it. They said on page, you're going to need a 12 and 12. remember how they finished explaining the just what? Remember? Well, when I go into the 12 and 12 at step 3. Y'all got a 12 and 12?
Yes.
All right, we go to step 3, and they're going to tell us, see, this step is heavily explained because the entire AA program rests on how earnestly and honestly I've come to this decision. Y'all heard that?
Yep.
So they said on page 34, yeah. Therefore, they say like all the remaining steps, y'all see that? Step 3 calls for affirmative action.
Yep.
For it is only by action that we can cut away the self-will, which has always blocked our entry of God, or if you like, a higher power into our lives. Faith, to be sure, is necessary, but faith alone can avail nothing. They've been telling us all our lives that faith without works was dead, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They said we can have faith yet keep God out of our lives.
Yeah.
I had tremendous faith when I came in here. I was reeking with it. Till my sponsor put me in check. He said, therefore, for that reason, our problem now has become just how and by what specific means shall we be able to let him in? Another question. Just how, not just what. Yeah, they combine the just what with the just how. Y'all saw that? Just how and by what specific means shall we be able to let him in? On the next page, they tell us at the top of that page, to every worldly and practical minded beginner, this step looks hard, even impossible. No matter how much one wishes to try, exactly, y'all see these words?
Yes.
How can he turn his own will and his own life over to the care of whatever God he thinks there is? You notice how they keep asking precisely how you're going to turn your will over to God? Exactly how you're going to do it? Give me, without vagueness or ambiguity, clear, cut, defined how. That's what they're talking about. That's the second time or the third time, because the big book asks us just what. Now the 12 and 12 asks exactly how, by what specific means. Now we go to page 39. Another question come up. That's in the 12 and 12. Y'all see that?
Yep.
So how exactly can the willing person continue to turn his will and his life over to the higher power? He said how exactly again, right? Now they asked us this question 4 times. In the big book they asked it 1 time, just what? And now the 12 and 12 in step 3, they ask specifically, precisely, how can a person do this, right? And don't think that they didn't answer it. They answered it. This is what they said. The bottom of the page, 38. Of course, the sponsor, y'all see that? The bottom of page 39.
39.
Yeah, the bottom of page 39.
Okay.
Of course, the sponsor, y'all see that?
Right.
Points out that our friend's life is still unmanageable even though he is sold. That means he in here, he done took 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
After all, only a bare start on AA's program has been made. More sobriety brought about by the admission of alcoholism. I admit I'm alcoholic. And by attending at a few meetings, I'm going to meetings. It's very good indeed. They don't downplay it, they say it's very good indeed. But it is bound to be a far cry from permanent sobriety and a contented, useful life. That is just, here's the answer. That is just, remember the just what?
Yes, sir.
That is just where the remaining steps of the AA program come in. Nothing short of continuous action upon these as a way of life can bring the much desired result. What is the much desired result?
Permanent continued sobriety.
We have a golden document, a world famous piece of literature, a priceless documentation that's recognized all over the AA world called How It Works. Right?
Yeah.
And in How It Works, this talking about the much desired result. In How It Works, the word result is mentioned 2 times. The first time they mentioned the word result is when they said, some of us try to hold on to our old ideas. But the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Ain't that what they said? Nil doesn't just mean 0. It means 0, but the root word of it comes from nihil. Nihilistic. The root word of it means an absolute negation of all moral principles. Meaning anything I do is right, long as I do it. Long as me doing it is right. An absolute negation of all moral principles. That means I'm on the flip side of spirituality. Any of y'all ever played spades? Any of y'all ever got set? Well, they got negative zone, don't it? Negative number. Nil mean I'm in the negative zone. I ain't even on board.
You got set.
Yeah. So, that's the first result. The second result in How It Works is having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We try to carry this message to other alcoholics, right? And to practice these principles in all our affairs. The reason why it's so tightly knit and fitting in is because what the doctor himself said. The doctor, when he was asked to contribute a few words on the book, which was already written, said it gave him a sense of real satisfaction. You know, he himself said that this book is written in masterly detail. Y'all heard that? Detail is another word that most of us haven't looked up. Detail. The book is actually written in masterly detail. Detail means the small components, the small elements that make up a wondrous work of art, or the small elements that compose a magnificent whole. Detail. For instance, to bring it down to earth, when my mother was living, when I was a child coming up, she had a picture in the house of Christ and the 12 disciples. It called the Last Supper. Y'all ever seen that picture?
Yeah.
And she had a big one too, sitting in the middle. And that's the only place in the house where she wouldn't cuss. She would cuss everywhere else in the house. But in that spot right, she would never cuss there. But we had this picture for years. For years. I had 6 brothers and 6 sisters, right? We had this picture for years in the house. Everybody see it, but nobody can tell you what's on the plate. It's the detail. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
It's the small elements that make up a wondrous whole. It's the detail that I've been missing. So he said the book was written in masterly detail, and that is the reason why most people have missed the time factor that's involved in the 12 steps. Y'all heard me? So right after, they tell us that the only way for us to continue to turn, and the exact way for us to turn our will over to the care of God is to practice the 12 steps. And they say on the next page, so we think or feel God's will, to conform ourselves to God's will. In other words, Once I'm practicing the steps, I don't have to try to figure out what God's will is. If I'm living the program, I'm automatically in God's will.
Yeah.
Y'all heard? Yeah, if I'm living the principles that they gave me, I place myself automatically with no thought or effort on my own. That's the miracle of it.
Yes, sir.
It's an automatic thing. I can not even believe in God and practice the 12 steps, and I'm in better shape than that believer who's sinning every day. Y'all heard? That's why we got these atheists and agnostics. See, the atheists and agnostics were not sold on religion. The atheists and agnostics were sold on principles. They saw what the principles were, and then they told us what the religion was talking about. We have a whole chapter called We Agnostic. Now, on the bottom of page 63, after we say this prayer, we're going to say, God, I offer myself to thee. Y'all hear that?
Yes, sir.
Then I'm going to make a contract with him. Say, if you take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Right here, I'm coming about a self.
Come on, boy.
Right now, I'm making a contract with God. That if you take away my difficulties, I'm going to help somebody. Right or wrong?
Yeah.
So when I get to step 12, and it comes time for me to help somebody else, and I renege, my difficulties come back, doubled and multiplied.
Yeah.
Then you see me in the rooms, I'm always complaining.
Yes.
I can't never stay on the topic.
Come on,
Because I got to let y'all know what's going on with me. You know, I'm in a storm, coming out of a storm and going into a storm. Where's the peace? There is none. On the bottom of page 63, after I say that prayer, they're going to come up with a word called next.
Yes. Yes.
Introducing step 4.
Yes, sir.
The word next means immediately following in time. Am I right or wrong? All space. Once I say a prayer, when I'm working with people, I give them 24 hours to have this 4th step done. Because they tell us on the next page, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, right? We made a strenuous effort so we can discover, to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which blocking us from making the turn. Right? I can't make the turn because I'm blocked from making the turn. I have to put effort in discovering what's in me that's blocking me from making the turn. Right or wrong?
Yeah.
So I go and see, now some people think, and I know for a fact that some people think this, that's not enough time. 24 hours to do a 4th step, that's not enough time. You know, they use the word launch for a reason. Rockets launch. Because I'm trying to get through, if I'm like a helicopter, floating up there, I never get through. I ain't got enough power, speed, and force. I have to break through the boundaries of the upper atmosphere to free myself from the slavery of gravity.
Right.
Y'all heard?
Yeah.
Well, likewise, I'm trying to get free up here, right?
Yeah.
What they told us, they said, we in our turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men.
Right.
Isn't that what they told us? So that's how we launched out. Now, after I do the 4th step, and let me say this. Like I said, some people think that's not enough time. But let me tell you how the first 100 did it. When a person said the 3rd step prayer, and they said next, they immediately sat down and started writing. Y'all heard?
Right.
That meant just, so we being merciful because times have changed. Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
But it's no soon as I get this done,
Yeah.
no soon as I get this done, we're going to go to page 75 in the big book.
Right.
That's what they're going to tell us. When means at what or which time, at the time that. Y'all hear that? That's what the word when means. Is different from that. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no what?
Time.
That we waste no time. I'm ready for a long talk, right?
Yes, sir.
See, once this ball starts rolling, it starts rolling. You know, they'll let me know when it's time to break. So once I do the fourth step, and I'm getting ready to share it. This is what they tell us. Even promises they give us. They say we pocket our pride
Yes, sir.
and go to it. Go to it, young man. Go to it. I mean, go to it must mean what? Be snappy about it.
Yeah.
Y'all ever was order something like a hamburger, and like I do generally sometimes, I'd order a hamburger and one of them stores, I said, be snappy, make it snappy. Be quick about it. Chop chop. Yes sir, yes sir. They said, we pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twisted character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease, which I was never able to do before. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. That's a heck of a feeling, ain't it?
Yes, sir.
Then it said returning home. We find a place where we can be quiet for how long?
1
1
hour.
hour.
For an hour. What the word hour mean? It's a unit of time, ain't it? Isn't it? Okay, after that, I'm going to go home, I'm going to ask myself these questions. Have I been honest?
Come on, man.
Right?
Yes.
Have I tried to make mortar without... In other words, have I been lying on my fortune? Did I come out with everything? You know, it's some things I don't want to tell my sponsor. I might have to go tell a priest. You know, I have to tell somebody. But it's, have I been faking this for? Where am I doing this? Where am I asking my questions? Where am I asking myself these questions? At home.
At home.
By myself, right?
Right.
Say, to thine own self be true. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually, men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. So now, I have the tools with which to be honest. I can ask myself honestly, have I been honest? All right? Now, on the next page, they're going to tell me if, question mark.
Yeah.
No, if we can answer to our satisfaction after that hour, we then look at step 6. The word then means at that time and not before. Y'all got that? That's what the word then means. At that time, after that hour, if we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. See, we have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things? Are we now ready? Y'all hear that? All the things which we have admitted are objectionable. Can you take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. Then it introduced step 7. When ready. Y'all hear it? W-H-E-N. At what or which time? At the time that. When ready, we say something like this. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me, I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. In other words, I ain't getting perfect here. Just those things that stand in the way of my usefulness to him and my fellows is the things that I'm asking for right now. The rest will come later on. Y'all heard that?
There you go.
Grant me strength as I go out from here. The word here means in this place at this time. That's one of the definitions of the word here. To do your business. We have then, at that time, completed step 7. Step 7 is simply a prayer. Step 3 is simply a prayer. And then he come up with another word called now. Now, right now, after I say that prayer, right now, we need more action. Right or wrong, y'all, that's what it says. This ain't Kenny saying that, this is what the book says. Why? We need more action right here. Because I said a prayer. They told us when ready, we said something like this. A funky pair of lips that says say anything. Am I right or wrong? Now it's time for more action. Without which we find at the feet we just took it dead. If I really want God to remove my defects, I'm going to realize that my defects have caused harm to other people. So in order to demonstrate that I want to remove them, I'm going to have to make a list and go back and correct, make amends to the people that I have harmed. And it conjoined 8 with 9. Now it's time for more action. So we're going to look at step 8 and 9. Y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
On step 10, they're going to tell us, step 10 going to tell us,
Continue.
we continued. Continued. The word continue means to extend in space or time. Y'all got that? What am I extending? Everything that I just did. And not only where I'm at, but as I move out. Y'all hear me? I'm going to start living these principles not only where I'm at, but as I move out. I'm extending in space and time what I've already done. So they're gonna tell me that just like with the number system we have, from 1 to 10. Once I get to 9, when I get to 10, I'm going to have to go back to 1. With a 0, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Only the 0 makes the number greater in quantity. You know, and as I stay continuing in time and space, practicing these principles, my sobriety gets more in quantity and my life gets better in quality. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to start the 1 and 0. They tell me, go back and start remembering what you did. Remember the selfishness you look for? Or this is dishonesty? Remember all that? Yeah. So they're going to tell me, continue doing what you did to get here.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, I've been through 1 through 9, right? And when 9 came, I got all these fabulous promises. You see what I'm saying? I got them all. They told me, oh, I'm going to know a new freedom and a new habit. Something I ain't never known before. You know, I ain't going to regret the past nor wish to shut the door. You know, I'm going to comprehend the word surrender. You know, comprehend the words? I had never comprehended the word surrender. And we will know peace. Peace will no longer be a stranger. See what I'm saying? As long as I'm practicing his principle, I'm guaranteed that. Why is it given to the person at 9? Because the person has made himself fit to receive it. And only God can give you peace. If I could have gave myself peace, I would have never met y'all.
Right.
Bill Gates, with all his money, if he was to walk in Walmart with $5 billion, he couldn't buy an ounce of peace.
Right.
It's most of the people who got money anyway jumping out the windows, right? The majority of them anyway, you know. And you be wondering why he flying down that way with all that money he got. Flying down, you know. Now, when I get to after 10, I'm saying this to show the time factor in the steps. Y'all with me on that?
Yeah.
Okay, when I get to step 11, what page is step 11 on? They're going to tell me...
85.
85?
Is it?
Yes.
Is it really?
It's at the bottom
Bottom
of
of
85.
85.
About 85?
Is it really?
Yes, it really is.
I feel that.
Yeah, that's where they mention step 11. But where step 11 actually takes place at is on the next page. Yeah, turn the next one and say, when we retire at night. Y'all heard me?
Right.
That's when step 11 actually come into full focus. When we retire at night. And again, the word when means at what or which time. That means whatever time you retire. So you Bill closely knitted that way, so those of us who rational minded and super intelligent can't find no loophole. So whatever time you retire, at what or which time, we carefully, we constructively review our day. We don't have to destructively review our day anymore. We can constructively look and review our day and look back and look upon it using the tools that we've been given. And we ask ourselves all of these questions. And y'all know about meditation. And most people will tell us, they say we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood it. And so some people take this to mean that after I done prayed, I'm going to sit down and start, and I'm listening for God. They done already told you, be careful what you think you're hearing from God anyway. So meditation, the word meditation needs to be actually understood. It needs to be looked up. It's got nothing to do with listening. I'm asking myself a bunch of questions and I'm listening for my answer. Y'all heard that?
Yes, sir.
Later on, in the 12 and 12, 15 years later, when Bill wrote the 12 and 12, I can go on the sunlit beach. Y'all heard me? But right now the newcomer is supposed to be asking himself these questions. Not going on a sunlit beach. These questions and answering them honestly. And each one of those questions got something to do with the previous steps. Am I right or wrong?
Yep.
Now 12, they're going to tell us, having had, having had. Had is the past participle or the past tense of what? Have. Having had. A spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. Do y'all see the time factor involved in the steps? That's my whole point.
Yeah.
Do you? I'm asking a question. Do you
Yes.
see
Yes.
the time back there? If I ask y'all a question, don't sit there and look at me like I'm crazy. Answer me. But we're going to open it up for questions and answers after we push this through, because I want to make sure these points come out. All right? Now, we done dealt with the time factor as I think as best we can, to showing what the textbook said rather than what Kenneth said. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
All right, now we got another part of this workshop. It's called Producing Sponsors and Not Sponcees. The textbook, people would say this. The big book don't mention the word sponsor. Y'all ever heard that?
Yes.
And they'll say that in a room full of newcomers. The big book ain't never mentioned the word sponsor. So sometime when we approach a person and he done heard that and he looking for a way out anyway, he said, well, the big book don't mention about sponsors. But he never tell them that the 12 and 12 does mention the word sponsor. And he never tells them that the purpose of the 12 and 12 is to broaden and deepen the understanding of the steps.
Right.
So the word sponsor is in the textbook literature. And that's not all. In the early meetings in the 30s, you couldn't get into a meeting unless you had a sponsor. They told people, I'm sponsoring him. That's the only way you got in. And you had to have went and done the third step prayer before you got in there to the meeting. Y'all heard that? It's changed, but this is what has happened. So they used the word sponsor. You didn't mention it in the big book. But Bill come back and clean all that up in the 12 and 12. What's not in the big book is sponsee. What's not in the 12 and 12 is sponsee. Y'all heard that? This is my sponsee. Y'all heard that? That word is not in there. They use the word protege. Then they use the word prospect. Because protege and prospect carry a different meaning than sponsee. Protege is a person who is guided by an older and more experienced or influential person. A pupil, a student, a trainee, an apprentice. What am I training for? If he's a protege. You know, if he's an apprentice or a student or a pupil, what is he being trained for? See, he's being trained for a specific reason. That's why they use the word. They only use it once. But that word prospect, they use that a bunch of times. A prospect is a person regarded as likely to succeed. A candidate, a possibility. A prospect, possibility that something fabulous will happen. Y'all heard that? So they went to certain places in, like, if you can turn your book to page 147 in the big book. I had a big book. What happened to it? Oh, y'all made me forget what the book was at. What page I asked you to turn to?
147.
147? All right. This word is on... Yeah, 147. I'm looking for the word prospect.
Juniors.
Any of y'all see it? Because I don't.
There's the word juniors.
Huh?
In the third paragraph, there's the word juniors.
The word what?
Juniors. These juniors are often in a difficult position.
No, that's the junior executive. That's not the prospect.
Okay, turn to page 148.
Here it is, alcoholic prospect.
Yeah.
What does it read that for me, Evelyn?
This junior executive, who's the boss of an alcoholic, may not agree. He need not, and often should not show it to his alcoholic prospect.
That's a man that got a guy working for him, and he has potential, but he's also alcoholic. But the boss man got wind of the big book, and is trying to help this man. So, because he's showing the potential to be a good worker. Anybody was young, small, when you was young and small, people used to tell you, "Oh, you have such great potential." Anybody ever told you that? "Oh, you have the potential to do this. You have the potential to do that." I heard it a lot. Y'all didn't hear it?
Yes.
Yeah. See, potential is only potential and remains potential until it becomes kinetic. Once the potential is activated, it becomes kinetic. Other than that, it's going to remain potential. Now, page 156 in the big book. Page 156. This is dealing with Bill and Bob. Bill and Bob got sober. We remember that, right? Bill went and got Bob. But they said, but life, as soon as they got sober, they said, but life was not easy for the two friends. Plenty of difficulties presented themselves. That means just because they had a spiritual awakening didn't mean they didn't still have problems. Y'all heard me? But the way they handled them, they said, both saw that they must keep spiritually active. One day, and you know, Bill wasn't in church. When they said they must keep spiritually active, we all know Bill wasn't in church, right?
Right.
So he said, but they must keep spiritually active. One day they called up the head nurse of a local hospital. They explained their need and inquired if she had a first alcoholic prospect. Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah. She replied, "We've got a corker. He's just beaten up a couple of nurses. Goes off his head completely when he's drinking. But he's a grand chap when he's sober. though he's been in here 8 times in the last 6 months. I understand he was once a well-known lawyer in town, but just now we've got him strapped down tight.
Here's our prospect.
See, here was a prospect, all right. They wasn't looking for nothing easy. You heard that? Billy Bob wasn't looking for nothing easy. They said, but by the description, none too, because the prospect is promising, right?
Yeah.
But by his description, none too promising. But the use of spiritual principles in such cases was not so well understood as it is now. But one of the friends said, put him in a private room. We'll be down. 2 days later, a future fella. They also call them future fellas. Y'all heard that? A future fella can be a future fella in the fellowship. Because the only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. But that's not the only requirement for recovery.
No.
I could come up here hopefully y'all won't let me come up here and be drinking whiskey. You see what I'm saying? But I can sit down in the rooms while y'all sharing drinking whiskey, and I can be a member in good standing. The only requirement for membership is a desire to start drinking, whether to stop drinking or not. But that's not the only requirement for recovery. Right?
Right.
All right. So, 2 days later, I'm reading this for a reason. A future fellow of Alcoholics Anonymous stared glassily at the stranger beside his bed. Who are you fellas? And why this private room? I was always in a ward before. Said one of the visitors. We're giving you a treatment for alcoholism, not them. Y'all hear this, what they say? Hopelessness was written large on the man's face as he replied, oh, but that's no use. Nothing would fix me now. I'm a goner. Etc., etc., etc. Now, after they didn't talk to this man for a while, they came back again on the next page. Go to the next page. They said, next day, found a prospect more receptive. Y'all know who this is? This is the man on the bed.
Third man.
Bill D. More receptive. And he was indeed a prospect. And he did produce prodigious results. He had been thinking it over. Remember, step 1 and 2 only require reflection. Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
He had been thinking it over. He said, maybe you're right. He said, God ought to be able to do anything. Then he added, he sure didn't do much for me when I was trying to fight this booze racket alone. On the 3rd day, he rose. No, that ain't what it said. What he said? Basically, that's what they telling us. He said on the 3rd day. Y'all remember this? On the 3rd day.
Yeah.
Said the lawyer gave his life to the care and direction of his Creator, and said he was perfectly willing to do anything necessary. In other words, on the 3rd day, this man got up, picked up his bed, and walked.
A free man.
Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
So 3 days after a person is sober, they're ready to be taken through the steps, according to this.
Yeah.
Y'all heard? Yeah. This man not only got up and walked, he started making other blind people see. He started opening up groups all over town. That's what he did. On the 3rd day after he was presented with this solution. That's exactly what he did. Page 100 and, what page were we on right there?
58.
58.
158 we was on?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, turn to page 166 in the 12 and 12. I said 166?
Yeah.
All right. This is what they tell us. Alcoholics, y'all see that? Simply will not listen to a paid 12-stepper. Somebody who's getting paid to carry this work? Y'all know what them kind is, right?
Therapist.
Yeah.
Counselor.
They will not listen to a paid 12-step worker. Almost from the beginning, we have been positive that face-to-face work with the alcoholic who suffers could be based only on the desire to help and be helped. When an AA talks for money, whether at a meeting or to a single newcomer, it can have a very bad effect on him too. The money motive compromises him, and everything he says and does for his who? His prospect. This has always been so obvious that only a very few AAs have ever worked the 12th step for a fee. Page 96 in the big book. Did we go there?
No.
Y'all see it?
You were sure to find someone desperate?
96. Let me get this.
Top of the page. First sentence.
Oh yeah. To the person who's working with the new man. Do not be discouraged if your prospect, not your sponsee,
Your prospect.
if your prospect does not respond at once. Ain't you done took somebody to step 3 and you still waiting on him to call you for folk? You know, you done gave him your number, you still waiting on the call, you ain't gonna call you yet? Do not be discouraged. Search out another alcoholic and try again. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself. To spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy. One of our fellowship failed entirely with his first half a dozen prospects. He often said that if he had continued to work on them, not working with them, he's working on them. You see, 'cause that's what you're doing. The book tells us working with others, right? He's working on them. That's what he's doing. You know, we're only willing with the willing, not the unwilling. We're not willing with the unwilling. We are not willing with the unwilling. That's what they're telling us here.
Right.
He says if he had continued to work on them, which is exactly what he was doing, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. Y'all saw that?
Yes, sir.
Now turn to page 90 in the big book. When? At what or which time?
When?
At the time that when you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time trying to persuade him. You may spur a later opportunity. This advice is given for his family also. They should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person. On the next page, on page 91, y'all see? When your man is better, the doctor might suggest a visit from you. Though you have talked with the family, leave them out of the first discussion. Under these conditions, your prospect will see he is under no pressure. He will feel he can deal with you without being nagged by his family. Y'all saw that?
Yes,
Turn the page. We turned to page 98 already, right?
93.
Page 93?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did we deal with 93?
We did
No.
96,
Okay.
90.
Yeah, page 93 now. You're right, Terry. How you, what you seen my notes of you?
That's my
Read the
favorite.
book
Okay.
when dealing with such a person.
Well, he the one who gave me my sponsor. He the one who put me in big book studies when he lied to those people and told them I had 6 months when all I had was 5. Yeah.
He was ready at this time.
He actually called a group conference. He told him he got 6 months and all I had was 5.
Keep coming back.
They say your prospect may belong to a religious denomination. His religious education and training may be far superior to yours. In that case, he is going to wonder how you can add anything to what he already knows. That's what I was thinking about with Pat.
Yeah.
I wonder what he's going to tell me about God that I don't know. That's my exact feeling. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
Now we go to page 18 in the big book. This is important. And I'm thinking we're getting ready to wrap this up, y'all. Now, where we at?
Page 18.
I'm on page 18.
Man who is making the approach.
I'm looking for this word prospect.
It's the last
On the
paragraph.
bottom.
Okay, all right. They say, but the ex-problem drinker. Right there, right?
Yeah.
Right? The
No.
new prospect.
Keep going.
Yeah. That's the man who is making the approach.
Yeah,
Long
that's-
sentence.
yeah.
Keep going.
Right. Okay, but before we get there, they got this squiggly writing up here.
Yeah.
And they're going to lay out for us the 9 conditions of sponsorship.
Yeah.
All right? This is what they're getting ready to do. There are 9 conditions that govern sponsorship. That's what they're getting ready to do. They say the ex-problem drinker who has found the solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. How long does one meeting last?
1 hour.
Well, they're talking about a few hours here, right? That means I'm sitting down face to face with this man, right? He can generally win the entire confidence of an alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty. How many?
7.
1. Right? That he obviously knows what he's talking about. Count. The first condition is that the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty. How many conditions is that?
That's one.
1.
All right. That he obviously knows what he's talking about.
Two.
2.
That his whole department shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer.
Three.
That he has no attitude of holier than thou.
4.
Nothing whatever except a sincere desire to be helpful.
5.
That there are no fees to pay.
6.
No axes to grind.
7.
No people to please.
8.
No lectures to be endured.
9.
These are the conditions we have found most effective. Y'all see that? That's the effective 9 most effective conditions for sponsorship. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. Y'all notice that book is saturated with phrases like that?
Yes, sir.
Pick up thy bed and walk. You know, stuff like that. Basically, that's what they're telling us. The reason why we run through this like we ran through it is because if people would follow this prescription, these clear-cut directions, and completely follow this method of taking a person through the steps, well, when you finish working with the person will automatically know that they can do it because you simplified it.
Yeah.
If you give them the first 164 pages to read, you read more about alcoholism with them. You're reading We Agnostic. They can read for themselves. Now, if you got one that's blind or you can't read, then read with him. But remember, this is crucial because in the beginning, they did not have a book. They took the steps, then wrote the book and told us what they did. Y'all heard?
Yeah.
So if I'm reading the whole book with him, that's a lot of, you know, and he be thinking, well, I got to do all that. Nah, I ain't doing all that. Give him the process. let a kid or two, he does not have to understand this in order for it to work. All he has to do is do it. And it'll come, this is what my sponsor told me, because I asked him all kind of questions. He said, Kenneth, you don't have a lot of thinking to do. You got a lot of thinking to stop doing. He said, you don't have to understand this in order for it to work. All you have to do is just do it. It's automatically happen. You know, so I took that suggestion and I dumb it up. I did it, then I studied. Then I asked, but I kept right with it. I'm stuck because my life is on the line. My life was on the line. So either I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do it. You know, either I'm is or I'm ain't. Either I'm in or I'm out. That's the way I believed it. So I went at it like my life depended upon it, and lo and behold, presto, abracadabra, Janice just walked through the door. Would you like to share? Would you like to share?
I want to add,
Okay. Thank you very much. What you got, Evelyn?
I want to add this because I think it's so critical, particularly for newcomers who keep relapsing. When Dr. Bob on page 56, when we read that both saw that they must keep spiritually active, carrying the message, working with another alcoholic, on page 120, when the guy has relapsed, the husband, don't remind him of his spiritual deficiencies. We don't point and take the inventory. We tell him he has to do more, redouble his spiritual activities, his action of living the steps. This is critical for people who come in, you think they have a desire, but they're not taking the action.
Y'all heard that?
Spiritual activity.
Spiritual activity.
I got it.
Oh, you answered. My name is Shannon, real alcoholic.
Hey, Shannon.
By sitting and listening, the question that I had, or was going to present to you earlier, has been answered
There you go.
in your demonstration.
What you telling us? You was impatient or something? That what you said?
Yeah, I was impatient. I know we talked earlier.
Wait a minute. What was the question anyway? I want to hear it.
What page was? Hold on. Precisely found on.
Did we answer that?
Yes, we did.
Who your sponsor is?
It's on 13.
Anybody will comment, any question, anything? Come on, brother.
I have a quick question. I'm an alcoholic.
If
I like what you said and everything. It's really insightful, and thank you. But I remember you saying something about launching into this and the time factor and whatnot. What if that wasn't my experience? You know how we talk about how you take someone through the steps based on your own experience of how you went through them, right? And I was just curious, like.
Let's put it. I understand your question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's say what he's telling us is, if my sponsor takes me through the steps, then when I'm working with somebody, I'm going to take people through the steps like my sponsor took me through the steps, right?
Right.
Okay. They had a lady. No, she was married. Her husband. She had a husband, and every time she cooks a ham, you know what a ham is, right?
Yeah.
She would chop off both ends of the ham. And so she kept doing that, and the husband asked her, why you keep chopping off both ends of the ham? And she said, because my mama did it. So they went to mama. They said, Mama, we want to know why you kept chopping off both ends of the ham. She said, because my mama did it. Well, great-grandma living, let's go to great-grandma. They went to great-great-grandma, and they said, why, Grandma, did you keep chopping off the ends of the ham? And she said, because my pan was too small. To answer your question, more specifically, the textbook tells us, rarely have we seen a person fail who has started following my sponsor's path. Is that what it said? No. person failed who has started following our path. Now my sponsor, like I said in the beginning, our job is not to condemn or put down
That's right.
the sponsors who is working with people like your sponsor worked with you. Because those people are doing the best they can with what they have. Our job is to point out what the textbook says about how and when to take a person through the steps. Because the only word that Bill would have changed, because they asked him, if you could have changed anything about how it works, what would you have changed? He said the only thing I would have changed was the word rally, and I would have said never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Curious, Kenneth.
You?
Tariq alcoholic. Yeah, just you know, because I mean, you covered everything in such masterly detail. I'm stumped for a question, so just so I can get to share and hear myself share.
Make a contribution.
I made a discovery on page 94, and you gave such an enlightening definition of prospect. What about this word candidate?
Candidate.
Yeah.
Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
Anybody ever been in any church and they say we got a candidate for baptism? We got somebody about to be completely spirit, a candidate. That's what they talking about. That's what they call him. That's where they getting this from.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's a candidate. He ain't won yet.
All right.
He's to be considered.
But he's showing up a candidate.
Okay.
That's the way they looked at it.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody got any questions? Oh, I didn't pass the seventh tradition. Oh, this and all the other tapes that we have on workshop is recorded. So next month we're going to have a tape, a CD on what was presented here. Y'all heard? We do not sell the CDs, but we put them in where the food is at. If you want to make a donation, that's fine, but we don't sell them. They're free. Y'all heard what they said about the people who try to sell this program, right?
Yeah.
Come on, Bruce.
Bruce alcoholic.
Hey, Bruce.
That's awesome. What if he doesn't get the 4-step done in 24 hours?
Say that again?
24.
Say that again?
What if he doesn't get the 4-step done in 24 hours?
Y'all heard the question?
Yeah.
If he doesn't get the 4-step done in 24 hours, and he hasn't called me and told me the reason why. Let's say he gets it done next week, but he don't call me and let me know.
Good point.
Tell him get somebody else to work with. Bottom line, that's what I do. You know? Because see, the way I take them through, it's going to be something similar to what he said. If I take them through like that, they're going to want to take people through the same way.
That's right.
So I want to use the textbook and how to get them through. The book said we launched out on a vigorous course of action. You know, so we dealing with prospects. We are producing sponsors.
Thank you.
Not sponsees.
Thank you.
So the way I take him through, I'm training him, OJT, to be a sponsor.
Yeah.
And the way I train him to be a sponsor is the way he's going to do the job. Y'all heard what I said? Yeah. I'm training this man not to be a sponsee. I'm training him to be a sponsor. I'm looking for a candidate, or a prospect, or a prototype. Somebody that can carry this message. That's what I'm looking for. The book tells me don't waste time on the rest of them.
Okay.
You know, the book says sometimes you got to drop it. You know what drop means? You got to drop it. Sometimes you got to drop it. But, so no, Bill and Bob, both. They used to tell people, once Bill found out what was happening, Bob used to tell people, I ain't letting you waste my time. You might as well go get you some drink. Go and finish drinking. You ain't about to waste my. And he laced it with what y'all call profanity. I ain't about to let you waste my mother time. That's the way Dr. Bob was. Because Dr. Bob was a real alcoholic, and he knew what it took. Because he went through it. He knew what it took. He wasn't about to let nobody waste his time. And he worked with over 5,000 alcoholic men and women, and he was a surgeon, a proctologist. That means he specialized in assholes.
And working with assholes.
And drunk at the same time.
I'm studying, I'm an alcoholic. Could you elaborate on the role of the sponsor after they take a person through the steps?
After a
Their
person,
relationship is supposed to be at that point.
let's say I'm taking a person through the steps. Let's say a person is on the 4th step, all right? I didn't call and give him the assignment. No, he's already,
Did all that.
he's going to do the 4th step. So sometime in the day he might call me. Now he's on the 4th step. Oh, look, man, my old lady, she ain't acting right. And them people on the job, they're still giving me a hard time. You know, what I need to do about it? I said, is you finish your step work? He said, no. I said, call me when you get it done. I hang up. The solution is in the steps. But now, once the person gets through the steps, we lay the kit of spiritual tools at their feet, right?
That's up to them.
And when they get through the steps, and then they got a problem, then they call, we can help to show them how to apply the tools that we done gave them.
Yes.
But before that, he has no tools to work with.
There you go.
So what I look like trying to give him algebra when he ain't done basic math? That's the same thing as taking a person through the steps using the 12 and 12. I'm giving that person trigonometry when he ain't got basic math yet. The 12 and 12 is not to take a person through the steps. The big book is. What we just finished going through. Y'all heard that?
Yes, sir.
The 12 and 12, the purpose of the 12 and 12 is to broaden and deepen the understanding of the steps. If I'm using the 12 and 12, he don't have the steps yet. How can I broaden and deepen the understanding of them? So that's what we do. We show them, and some people stay for a lifetime. You got people like me, got 30, 40 years, still be saying about their sponsor. Because the sponsor still helps to show them how to apply certain tools to certain situations. That's how we work with them.
We don't rate.
You know, when we done took them through, you know, they'll get other sponsees. Prospects. They'll get other people to work with, and they'll run into a problem with them. They'll call one of us. Hey, look, I got a problem. So the experienced one, we done had experiences with them. Ain't no problem you can come here with that one of us ain't been through. I don't care what it is. You can't bring nothing here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Not today you can't. You know, that we ain't got something for it. Alcoholics Anonymous came up with the 12 steps. It's a way of living, a design for living that answers all problems. That's why NA used the 12 steps. CA used the 12 steps.
DA.
Overeaters Anonymous used the Sex Anonymous used the 12 steps. Y'all hear what I'm saying? All kind of anonymous. They got so many of them I can't name them all. But what they using? 12 steps. All right, now we're getting ready to eat. But before we eat, we're going to ask y'all to, did we pass the 7th edition?
Yeah.
All right, y'all join us in a moment of silence sitting where you at.
Wait a minute. Before we do all of that, I want to correct you. I feel like correcting you.
I need correction.
You made. Innocently. You made a statement implying that the word sponsor or sponsorship was not mentioned in the big book, if I'm correct, if that's the way you present it, right?
The first 164 pages.
Thank you. I want to clear that up. That lets you know I was paying attention.
You got to remember, he taught me.
Yes.
I learned from him about sponsors and working with others. I learned from him. So I know I know when I just know Tariq. I'm gonna be grateful for Tariq my whole life. One word. You listen to this. One word that I misquote can destroy somebody.
That's right.
You heard me?
Yes.
That's why they said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly, not somewhat. They didn't say somewhat followed out. They said thoroughly. The word thoroughly means having all necessary elements, components, or steps. Look it up in the dictionary. Having all the necessary elements, components, or steps. Steps means grades, levels, degrees, stages, measures in a process that's designed to achieve a specific result. And see if you really did have something, a mistake that I made that needed to be corrected. When we made the tape, I would have X'd it out.
If I did, I would have pulled you to the side.
Y'all ready? God. Grant me serenity to accept things I cannot change. Courage, change things I can. And the wisdom to deliver. Thank you all very much. Hope it was helpful.
Very.
Thank you.